Beth,
Hey Scott,
how are you?
good. How are you?
Good.
Good. In Shutesbury?
I am. I just got back from New York.
Uh, you just travel, travel, travel.
Travel all the time.
That's what retirement's all about.
Absolutely.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
I'm so sad it got cold again.
Oh my gosh.
I was loving the weather. It was just so wonderful.
I walked out of the gym and I was like, oh, I'm not going to put on socks. It's so warm out. And then like an hour later, I was like, oh shoot, I had my winter jacket on.
I
I
make
know.
the
I think this
mistake every
morning it
every year. I
started.
make the same mistake, thinking that, hey, this is it. This is spring. It's sunny out, and
Mhm.
I just saw on the newscast that we could get as much as 6 inches early next week. It's like,
Oh,
no.
really? Oh gosh.
I mean, in the end, I don't. I guess mind cold weather again, but I don't want any more snow. I just don't want to have to deal with it. I was finally able to walk through my backyard to get into the woods today without, there were some spots where I sunk down a foot or so, but most of the woods and going into like the main trail, you could walk on it, with going down just a little bit. It was doable, but today was the first day that it was like that. Yep.
The cold is pretty good for the maple sap, though. Too many warm days without and warm nights at the same time. We were getting no flow, but now we got flow again, which is good.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's just going crazy.
That's good. I have three trees that are, and I've emptied once, the blue bags once. Yeah, I think it's going pretty well. Um, all right. It is 7:02 on March 12th, 2026, and I'm calling this meeting of the Shrewsbury Conservation Commission to order. Welcome, everybody. I think we have a pretty short meeting tonight, so that's great. All right. Comments from the chair. Um, there was a hike on March 7th, um, which wasn't the best day, but we still did it. It was one of our monthly hikes. We hiked behind the parking lot for Lake Wyola, the trails back there, which was new to me. I'd never been back there, so that was kind of neat. I think I want to go back when the weather's better. There's no snow. So I guess you can get all the way over to Fisk Pond back there.
Yep.
Anyway, it was good. We had 8 people, somewhere around there, 8 to 10 people. And that was good. The next hike, which is, I think, the last of the ones that we have set up, is April 12th at 11 a.m. and it's Southbrook. So we'll be meeting in the parking lot on Randall Road and doing the Southbrook. And I think the weather will be,
Sorry.
um, yeah, that's April 12th. And I know Bob has got some ideas for hikes. And so what I was thinking, Bob, is when we meet with the rec department to schedule the next three, we kind of do it in threes. So 3 months of hikes. You should come to that meeting and we'll
Yeah,
be
I'd
doing
like
eight.
to. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What else? I presented the Foot It project at the CPA meeting, and that went well. Their next meeting is March 23rd, which I believe is when we vote on the CPA applications. So that was good. There's the notice of intent from Lake Wyola, from to Lake Wyola, the woman that wants to dredge the little inlet next to our house. So we're waiting to hear from Natural Heritage before scheduling the hearing for that. That's why it's not tonight. Still haven't heard back. So kind of waiting for the applicant to let us know when they want to actually officially kind of submit. They've submitted, but they decided not to go on a hearing until they heard back from Natural Heritage, and that's fine. And then the only other thing I have is that I don't know if you guys have heard, there's a newsletter. They're putting together a Springtown newsletter, and they're looking for little blurbs from committees. And the draft blurbs, I guess, are due next Wednesday. And I was kind of wondering if anybody wanted to just write up a little something about wetland permitting. I'm too busy. I have so much going on at work, it's beyond control. So it would just be like a paragraph sort of saying, this is when you need to call the Conservation Commission. And we have a flyer that has that info, which I could send to whoever wants to just put together a paragraph. But it would be that kind of a message like, hey, we're the Conservation Commission. This is what we do. And this is when you should reach out to us about getting a permit. Any takers?
I could take a swing at it.
Awesome. Great. There's info on our webpage too. Like I think that flyer is on the webpage and you'll be able to find. Great. Thank you, Scott. That's awesome. I think it's next Wednesday and you'd be sending it to Brennan. You know Brennan, he's the or you could send it to Mateo, right? Mateo, can Scott send it to you? And
Yep, I'd be happy to move it along.
great. Awesome. Thank you, Scott.
You bet.
All right, next we have review and vote on the minutes of February 12th. Does anybody have any comments or changes for the? Seeing none.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion, we approve those minutes.
Great. Second?
I'll second.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't here, so.
Right. All right, great. Roll call, Douglas?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
And Wilson? Aye.
I did hear, I'm just for the future, in case we ever need it, even if you weren't at the meeting, you can still vote on it. As long as you read the
Yeah.
minutes.
I do remember that Mateo saying that I didn't have a chance to review the minutes.
Yeah.
I think we lost Mateo. Oh no, there he is. Okay. Sorry.
Who's there?
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we're in a desperate situation where we
Yep.
don't
Sure.
have enough the quorum, we can do it that way.
Okay.
All right, next we have site visits. Mayor, have there been any site visits?
Not that I know.
Yeah.
Well, we did that one site visit to Wyola, but I think that you probably covered that at the February 12th meeting.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it when we actually
Mhm.
have the
Okay.
hearing for the project also. Yeah, the only thing I can think is I think Mateo's going to be sending around an email to set up a site visit for 84 Lake Drive because we got 2 certificates of compliance for that property that we will be doing at our next meeting, looking at our next meeting. So we'll need to do a site visit.
That what proper who owns that? Is that
That
Yeah,
is,
sure. Oh,
it's the estate of John Tomasetti.
oh, okay.
They found 2 open orders of conditions, one of which is from like 1984.
Oh. Okay.
yeah. So Mateo, do you know if we have the actual order of condition, copies of the orders of conditions?
I think we do. I think that he actually, when the attorney first reached out to me, I think that his email had I can go back and look, but I think it had the copies that he had scanned of them. So I can make sure that those get passed along with the application as well.
That'd be great. All right. Land management update, Scott?
I think the only item would have is we were in the process of awarding the bid for Southbrook, and thanks to Mateo for all your work going through reviewing that with town council and extending the offers. And so I think we're still awaiting here to get the final acceptance of. We did notify the low bidder, and we're still waiting to hear back. Last I knew, unless Mateo has an update.
No, like I said, it's been now 7 days, and the last time I was in town hall, yesterday there was nothing from them. Today was the 7 day mark, so I'll check again in the mail tomorrow morning. But yeah, 7 days is what we stipulated in the invitation for bids.
Yeah, I think it might be worth just giving them a call just to see. I mean, I know it would be nice to say, oh, you didn't get it to us by 7 days, but I do feel like maybe just reaching out to them and just so that they understood that they were supposed to get it in within 7 days and see if they're still interested, I guess. All right. Um, all right, fifth thing on our agenda is discuss and vote on the recommendation to the select board for Michael McDuffie. Welcome back, Mike.
Thanks. Glad to be here again.
Great. And since you're here, I take it you are still interested in being on the commission.
Very much so.
Excellent. All right. Does anybody have any more questions for Mike, or Mike, do you have any questions for us? Looks like Bob has his hand up. Yes, Bob?
Yeah, Mike, if you could be an animal, any animal, what would you be?
Probably a moose, I think.
Excellent
Just-
choice.
Just massive, shy.
That's a good one. All right, I don't have any other questions. Mike, any questions for us? Do you like to go by Mike or Michael? How about that for a question?
Let's go with Michael.
Michael, okay.
I have tons of questions, but I don't think any that we need to touch on here. But,
Okay. So at this point, we vote to make a recommendation to the select board. It's their final decision. But then once they decide, and we'll just think positively, I will reach out to you with a lot of reference material and stuff, things that you can look through to learn about what we do and sort of what your role is as a member of the commission. But right now we'll vote. I'm looking for a motion to vote to recommend Michael to the select board to appoint to the Conservation Commission.
I'd like to make a motion to for us to support Michael as a commissioner for the Conservation Commission to the select board.
Second?
I'll second.
Great. All right, Douglas,
Hi.
Khan,
Aye.
and Fox.
Aye.
And Wilson, aye. Great, congratulations.
thank you.
So I'll put a letter together and it's whenever they can get it on their agenda. I'll let you know about that. Cool. Well, that's very exciting. So good to have a full board, just so people can, travel and not have to come all the time. Very exciting.
Scott has already left.
He took that.
Are you available during the day, Michael, or in the afternoons, or
I
are
can.
you?
I work from home, and
Okay.
so usually I can, if I need to, I could dip out probably.
Great.
And do you live what part of town?
I live next to Atkins Reservoir. I'm down on Kettle Hill Road. It's off Summer
Okay.
Mountain Road.
Well, it's
Okay.
great to have somebody from that area of town.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking that we have diversity now. It's good.
We do. That's great.
Every little lake concentrated.
Yeah. All right. So next on our agenda is to discuss a forest cutting plan that we received. So we got two. We have two forest cutting plans. First one is from Coles. The property is on Pelham Hill Road. Did everybody get a chance to look at that cutting plan a little bit? That one is, I would just say, smaller than the other one. The acreage is the same, about 25 acres. But they're cutting a lot less. It's 125 cords, I guess it is. And they're just doing cordwood, and they have no wetland or stream crossings that they're going to have to do. So that one looked pretty straightforward to me. I didn't really see any issues with that. So
Beth, do we have a representative or a forester from that supporting that application on today?
I don't think so. Do we? Anyone? No, we don't.
Yeah, so if it is our out of our wetland jurisdiction, is that correct?
We just review these. Yeah, we don't have any regulatory power with these cutting plans. But part of the cutting or the forestry regulations requires that a copy gets sent to the local conservation commission for review, and we're given 10 days or something to make comments that we would send to the forester, because of the DCR and the state forester. They're the enforcing agency. So they review the cutting plans, they sign off on them. They are the ones who then go and check on the actual work that's happening to make sure that it's happening in accordance with the cutting plan. But because there's often wetlands involved, one of the things is that the Concom gets to just make comments on it. Something else I noticed, was it this one or the other one? Maybe it's the other one, did say, they were going to do it during frozen soil, which is always a good thing. Yeah, so that's how that works. And like I said, I don't really see too many issues with this one, considering they're not proposing any wetland or stream crossings. They are using a filter strip, a 50-foot filter strip at one part of so right next to one of the wetlands. So a filter strip is, you know how streams with us have like 100-foot buffer zone? For forestry cutting, there's a 50-foot, you could call it a buffer zone, but within that 50-foot, they're actually still allowed to cut. They're just allowed to cut 50% less than they are outside it. So that 50-foot filter strip is 50% less trees than outside. Yeah, and you'll see they have a choice of doing 100-foot filter strip if they want to, but most of the time they check off that they're going to do a 50-foot filter strip. So anyway, this one I don't have any concerns. I don't know. Does anybody else have any concerns?
Yeah, certainly the long-term objectives that of the forest management, enhance wildlife, improve recreational opportunities, protect soil and water quality. Those are all good things. So I would be inclined to approve.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. All right. So we're looking for a motion to basically not submit any comments on the forest cutting plan from WD Coles for Pelham Hill Road cut.
It's a move.
All right. Second?
Second.
Okay. Douglas?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Fox?
Aye.
And Wilson? Aye. All right, then the second one is from DCR. It's a little bit more complicated. Did folks get a chance to look at it? It's it is off of, so that other one was Pelham Hill Road, like I said. This one is right next to Old Farm Road is what it's called, right? Town Farm Road. Um, if you come down Prescott towards 202 and just after the Cooleyville goes off to the left, there's Town Farm Road on the right. So you're coming down the hill there. So this cut is on the east side of Town Farm Road and south of Prescott Road. And so it's DCR land, DCR doing the forestry. I think it's about the same close in acreage as the other one, but it's a lot more trees. I thought I saw somewhere that it was also, yeah, 20, it's a little less. The other one said 25 acres. This says 24.9. Very close. Oh, but that's for one stand. I see. So the other one was a total of 25 acres, the Coles one, and it's just one stand. This has 4 different stands for a total of 55 acres. So it's a bigger cut, definitely. And then, these cutting plans, they list the trees, the cords for each type of tree. It's quite a bit. I can read them off if people are interested. And there are some, there's a wetland crossing proposed where it says it's 32 feet long. This is the one where they say they're going to do the wetland crossing. So most of the cut during frozen soil and frozen dry is the 2 categories for the soil when they would do it. And then they're going to use matting. They're going to use the corduroy matting and a combination of that and a bridge for the wetland crossing. And they've got filter strips, 2 different filter strip areas with various widths. So you've got the choices are 50-foot, 100-foot, or VA for, I'm assuming that means various widths for their filter strip.
I was excited to see the component where they build a 15 foot tall wall of slash to contain an area to protect it from deer browse. I've seen that those studies of that done in Pennsylvania and Cornell out in New York, but this is the first one that I know of that's taking place in at least in our part of Massachusetts. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I've never seen that. That would be fun to go look at. Yeah, so again, with this one, it's much larger, which is always sort of, eh. But it's CCR, like Bob is saying, they have some interesting and very well thought out methods to what they're doing and what their goals are. And I think basically in terms of them meeting the regulation, they're meeting the regulation. And in terms of impacts to what we care about, the wetlands and the streams, they're proposing what's appropriate. So I'm all right with it. How about others? Okay, no comment, then I'll take again a motion to not submit any comments regarding this cutting plan. DCR's cutting plan off of Prescott Road.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. We make no comment on the Prescott forestry plan for DCR.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Douglas,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
and Wilson. Aye. All right. Good. All right, now we've got an informal discussion with New England Power Company, National Grid is what I call them, regarding the improvements to the E5 F6 transmission line. I see Teresa's here, and Joe is here. Welcome.
Good evening. Nice to see you again, Beth. We just met yesterday. Just
We
met
did.
yesterday. I also have my colleague Erasme de Cruz with me here today as well. He's also with BSC. Just want to familiarize yourself with both of us because you might be interacting with either one of us through the application process and the review process moving forward. So we have a short presentation that I'd be happy to go over with the commission, just to give you a high level introduction to the project that we will be filing with you this summer.
Great. Sounds good. Thanks for coming.
Okay. I can share my screen.
Yeah.
Just turned it on.
Great. All right, let me know if that pops up.
Looks good.
All good? Okay, great. I just now have to move some windows around. Okay. Okay, did it advance? I just want to double check. Okay, great. I just got so used to Teams, we just switched and now haven't used Zoom for a while. So two platforms here, but bear with me. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you guys. So we're just going to start with a little bit of history and location of where this project is. So originally, so the project is referred to as the Central to Western Mass Improvement Project, and this pertains to two circuits that we refer to as the E5 and F6 circuits. So when we talk about the project, we'll use that shorthand of the circuits. So we often just say E5F6 ACR project, just to familiarize you with some of the naming conventions. So it was originally constructed in the 1900s. Largely those two circuits still are being held on the original lattice structures along the majority of the line. So there has been, maintenance, of course, over the years, and the lines were refurbished in 2001. So the location of the project is along the existing right-of-way corridor. In total, it extends 67 miles. There's several substations along this transmission line. And so there is going to be some work along tap lines that's associated with this project. Within Shutesbury, there is a tap, but it's like in the existing right of way. So in some locations along the project, we have a tap line that actually extends off into a smaller right of way connecting the main line to a substation. But in Shrewsbury, it's really all kind of contained within the right of way. So there's 17 municipalities that we will be filing with notice of intents with. So here's the list here before you. And I'll show a map to orient you better about, where the line is located. But we extend, from Millbury all the way into Shelburne. And Buckland is the lucky winner that has one work pad that's in riverfront area. So we will be filing within that town as well. So just a little bit about the needs and benefits of the project. So the need is to address, reliability concerns for these two circuits, to improve reliability and efficiency, and also to support, future integration of renewable energy sources within the area. So the scope of work is going to be located on the main line and 7 tap lines that were listed on the prior slide. So this will involve replacing all of the existing lattice structures with monopoles. They will be constructing new access in some locations and improving existing access. They'll be reconductoring the circuits to support operation in the future at 115 kV. So right now these circuits operate at 69 kV. They're designing because it is, expected in the period of the life of these assets, they will need to operate at 115 kV. So they're kind of future-proofing the design and the need for that in the future. They're also replacing what's called shield wire, which are wires right at the top of the transmission structures, with 2 optical ground wires. It's while it says ground, they are located aerially on the structures, and those provide communication between substations. And then they'll also be doing vegetation management for safe access, but largely for clearance requirements for the replacement conductors. So this will include tree removals along the edges of the right-of-way of the corridor, and mowing within the corridor itself where it's needed. So in totality, across the 67 miles, there's about 241 acres. So this is just a map, an overview of the project. So you can see here it starts in Millbury, Mass. This is the Millbury substation. What you see identified in black points along here are the different substations. Some of these stars are the tap lines that I mentioned, located along here. And then here we are in Shutesbury, so you can see the star identifying the Shutesbury tap and the substation here. And then we continue all the way up into Shelburne. So a little bit about project schedule and what has been occurring for this project so far. So stakeholder outreach started in 2023 and will continue throughout the duration of the project. So this include, mailed notifications. There is a project website that is available, and all of the submitted permit applications thus far are available on there, as well as additional project information and a public and an interactive map. We've been conducting various field assessments since 2022. So that include environmental work, conducting wetland delineations, vernal pool surveys. We've done wildlife habitat evaluations. But also there's been extensive effort for access reviews, cultural resource testing. And then recently we had filed with the conservation for the geotechnical phase of the work, which is the soil borings, where they went in and gathered information about the soil to inform the design of the structures. Permitting, we're in the middle of it. It began in 2022. We're anticipating having all permitting completed in 2027. And then construction is not anticipated to start until the spring of 2029, and it'll continue into 2033. And that's not to say that during that entire span, there will be active construction along that full length of the right-of-way. The work is going to be sequenced based on outages that they take between substation locations. So they'll hop down the line. And so that's why you have that note here, in terms of the specific timeline on when work will occur within each community that will be communicated prior to the commencement of work when that schedule is defined. So this is an overview of the permitting process that we're going through right now. So the NEP filed with the EFSB in March of 2025. We're actively undergoing MEPA review. So we received our ENF certificate in March of 2025. We've received the certificate on the DEIR in January of 2026, and we're in the process of preparing and targeting filing of our FEIR in July of this year. We've been actively coordinating with Natural Heritage before we even started filing NEPA. We were meeting with them on a regular basis to review minimization measures. There are several locations along this line where we have rare species. So we will be filing a checklist. Certainly when we file the NOIs, if we're in estimated habitat, they will be receiving a copy of that. But we do know we have some locations where we are anticipating the need to obtain a CMP. We'll be filing with the Corps, obtaining coverage under NPDES, that's the Construction General Permit. We will be filing with DEP for a 401, an individual 401 water quality certification. We're anticipating filing that in July, which the Conservation Commission will be copied on. That request will include a request for a variance because there's one location along the line that is in very close to proximity to the Quabbin. And so we will have temporary matting within a wetland that's within 400 feet of the Quabbin. And that is triggering that variance requirement. So just to give a heads up to the commission when they receive that and see that language, that's what's triggering that requirement. And then for the notices of intent, we're anticipating filing in June, but that will continue across the municipalities until March of next year. So luckily, Erasme has been amazing and laid out a schedule where we somehow do not have the two filings on a hearing on the same night, and we're going to try to stick to that throughout this, and we'll see what we can do. But Erasme and I will be the representative, just kind of tag teaming those schedules as we go along. We're also filing with DCR. So 2 permits there. We are coordinating with Parks and Recreation for a construction access permit within lands that are in the Parks and Recreation areas. And then we're also coordinating with the Quabbin on access permits. And we'll be filing under the Watershed Protection Act within areas in the Quabbin area. And then, of course, we have some areas where we are crossing state highways. So just an overview of the corridor within Shutesbury. So the main line is two miles long. It's primarily rural setting in a forested area. It crosses conservation land, which includes Amherst Watershed and the Walter Cowles Jones Working Forest. So it extends from the Leverett town line to the Shutesbury substation, crosses Pratt, Corner Road, Sand Hill Road, and Dean Brook, passing through the Amherst watershed area. In total, there's 25 existing structures that will be replaced. And this is just clarifying the tap that was mentioned. It's 0.02 miles, and I can show you where that's located. It's just right off of the main line of the right away where the substation is located. And this serves customers in Shutesbury, Leverett, New Salem, and Pelham. So in total, wetlands in the corridor that we've identified, we have 12 that we've delineated off and on right away. We have riverfront area, buffer zone. We have some certified and uncertified vernal pools and inland bank. And then major waterways that are intersecting are Dean Brook and Nurse Brook. So this is a cross section of the towers. So you can see this is a picture of the existing lattice towers. And this is a picture of the type of structure that they will be replacing those with. So this is that steel monopole structure. And then this is just showing you a cross section. So the center line here is going to be shifted just a little bit off center from the existing structures. Here's a cross section that was included in the MIPA filing. This will be included in the NOI filings as well to provide an overview of the tree removals that will be conducted. So on average, the right-of-way is about 125 feet wide. And they will be they'll be removing trees that are within that 125-foot width to provide the clearance for the conductors that are going in. So it's just showing, along the edge of the corridors, they'll be removing trees, canopy where they can, just canopy to provide that clearance requirement. And then just to familiarize you all with some of the legends that you will see for off right-of-way. So in some cases, there are access off right-of-way where they don't have the clearance required to get equipment in. And so this is just showing you, we have just some different categories where, anticipating within, a 30-foot wide area, they'll need to remove trees. There's other areas where it's not a full, not assuming that full 30-foot width of trees will need to be removed, but just selective trees in order to navigate equipment in. In other areas where it's really just pruning that's going to be needed, or canopy lifting in order to get equipment in and not damage them. And so those are all provided a different category on the mapping. So avoidance and minimization measures that have been implemented, the primary one is the project's using the existing transmission line. And the majority of the work is using, historic access routes to get into the right-of-way. Where access is proposed off right-of-way, it's often to avoid, large wetland resource area, or because the terrain is very complex, and keeping access in right-of-way is limiting, would require a lot of additional disturbance. So a lot of constructability reviews were conducted to site access, and also we worked with the designers to minimize work paths where we could, but still allow them to have safe work areas for construction. We also worked with them to replace structures closer to the existing structure, or move a structure out of a wetland area where they can within the confines of their design constraints. And there's no permanent stream crossings proposed as part of this project, and there's no permanent wetland crossings proposed. So throughout the project, they'll use, standard BMPs, soil erosion and sediment controls. Temporary construction matting will be used to access areas where they're working within BBW, as well as in some upland areas as well. And the use of the construction matting, I don't know how familiar the commission is with the timber matting, but it's, to protect the soil and the rootstock, but still be able to bring in very heavy equipment. And then post-construction, restoration of the wetlands and other sensitive areas and restoring the area to pre-construction configurations to the extent practical. Within, I think part of the slide got cut off. But within riverfront area, what is that's trying to say up there is that post-construction they will be loaming and seeding work pad areas to restore and revegetate areas within riverfront area. So in total in Shutesbury, we have temporary impact to BBW of 32,585 square feet. And then tree removals that will be conducted within wetlands. We have a total canopy cover conversion of 8,712 square feet. So that's the overview of the project. Again, we're targeting to file these throughout Q3 and Q4 of this year. But the next two things that you will be copied on is the copy of the FEIR when that gets submitted, and then when we file the 401 application. So those might come before you, before we file the NOIs. So I'll stop sharing and happy to take any preliminary questions.
Great. Thank you for that presentation. I have a couple, and then it looks like Bob has his hand up too. And these are just, kind of overall bigger questions at this point. One is when you put in the new poles, are they going to be on permanent pads, or is it going to be the similar sort of ground surface that's there right now with the lattice structure?
So in terms of the foundations themselves, is that?
Yeah, what is it going to be sitting on? Are you going to have to put in some kind of a permanent pad, I guess is what I was wondering.
Yeah, not to support the structures themselves, although so there's two different types of structures that will go in. One will be supported by a concrete foundation. So they refer to them as concrete caisson foundations. And then the other methodology is direct embed. So that'll just be drilled down in, and it's basically underground. There's a culvert that holds the structure in place.
Okay.
And then they will be developing work pad areas, and those will be composed of gravel, and then post-construction allowed to revegetate over time.
Okay. Yeah, because you talked about temporary impact, and I was wondering about sort of the definitions between permanent and temporary in terms of the access roads, and then if there was like any sort of a real concrete pad that would have been more of a permanent impact, but it sounds like not as much permanent impact, I guess, mostly temporary.
Not like impervious impact from like a concrete, but yes, gravel will be applied to access areas and then work pad areas.
Okay. Next really general question is what is the lifespan of this? Like when would you have to come back and do this again? Like this is a one-time thing for how many years?
Yeah, I will have to get back to you on the longevity of the monopoles themselves. Joe, I don't know if you know, but I think it's about like 100 plus years that the steel is generally good for, but they still have to come back and maintain structures, and they'll still be, doing their cyclical vegetation management. So it doesn't replace that, but in terms of a full structure replacement, and that is not the intent to have to do that moving forward, which is why they're designing it to be 115 kV, so that they don't have to come back at the time that they do then need to increase that voltage and operate at a higher voltage.
Yeah. Okay. You talked about taking trees down. What about shrubs? When I walk the line right now, it's I don't know the footage of how wide it is, and it certainly has trees along the edge, but a lot of what's grown in there are more like shrub size plants,
Mhm.
are those all gonna also get completely cleared or?
So during construction, so anything that's a shrub that's not at a height that's not incompatible, with the line, they'll maintain that. But during the construction period, certainly there will be areas where they'll mow, a work pad area to, get equipment in there. In wetland areas, they it really depends. A lot of times they can just put the matting on top and they don't have to do any sort of mowing. And it's amazing how quickly those systems restore when they're removed. So it'll be a combination. Like you're not going to see like a full-blown edge to edge, you know, everything mowed. It's really limited to the work areas.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering, the whole line, like completely cleared or just, it's not gonna be that, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, then my last question has a little bit to do with our meeting the other day. I'm wondering about notifying property owners. So you had your whole list of all the permitting you're going through.
Mhm,
But at
mhm.
what point do you notify, and maybe you've already started doing this, but like a private landowner who even owns the right of way area that you're going through and just making sure that they know ahead of time so they can voice their concerns. Not just the Concom, not just the towns, but the actual property owners. So I was confused about that.
Yeah, and Joe, I don't know if you want to take that one.
Yeah, I can jump in. I'm Joe Carroll. I work in the project engagement group at National Grid. So we've already been engaging with property owners across the entire line. As Teresa mentioned, we kicked off our outreach in 2023. So that include notifications to all the project abutters. And we've been managing a project hotline since the beginning, which gives landowners the opportunity to call in, ask questions, set up meetings. We've presented to 13 of the 16 select boards, and that's something that we're going to look to do as we continue to move further. We've held some project open houses, which again we'll do throughout the span of this project, especially as we get closer to construction kicking off, in which we invite all the abutters to different locations to come and meet with different subject matter experts. So we have a number of different tools that we're going to utilize, and we're certainly open to any feedback from town officials in terms of other potential opportunities to reach landowners. I know some towns have, their own community TV station, so we're looking to utilize that in some cases to even just share the project information, the project website. So we're open to communicating as often and frequently as we can.
Great. Yeah, Shutesbury doesn't have a TV station. We have
we
next
can
door.
we'll find another way. We'll find another way to make sure. But yeah, we're committed to that, and we want to make sure that there's no surprises when construction does begin in a few years.
Great. Sounds good. That was it for my questions. Bob, you had your hand up, I think.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I have a disclosure. I have a compliment and a question. The disclosure is that by weird coincidence, Teresa and
Yeah.
my daughter, Teresa's daughter and my daughter play in the same soccer league, and I just wanted to put that in the minutes. I don't see a conflict of interest, but I just wanted to make note of that. Um, the compliment is the project is well planned out on that little walkthrough that we did. Um, Power lines are much kinder to the environment than roadways. So even though there's a river that's running through an area, they can put are planning to put a tower here and a tower there. So all that sensitive area just simply has lines that run over it. And each of those areas may be reached by side roads, which would not damage wetlands. So uh, initial response is it is very smart planning is showing. Um, and then my ask is generally for large projects like this that span several towns across the state, there is a mitigation budget from the project proponent. And my request would be that, if possible, that money be some of that money be spent in the town of Shutesbury because we certainly do have needs for mitigation projects.
I will bring that back to NEP. And so far we're still in the process of evaluating mitigation. Could be comprised of a couple different entities. We've worked with DCR to provide find projects to compensate for the carbon loss. Kestrel Land Trust, I know they have lands within the areas. We would like to work with them as well. Mass Audubon is another entity being evaluated for contributions. So we can certainly add Shutesbury to the list of potential opportunities as we put that package
Excellent,
together.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else have any questions? No. Well, this was great. It sounds like you guys have a lot of permitting ahead of you, and
We do, yeah.
Sounds like we'll look out for the July MIPA final the FEIR, right?
Yep.
And then just we'll keep on top of things. I'm the web page. I'm going to check out the web page definitely. And I guess one other thought I had was just that people know that I guess the web page is the best place to go for sort of changes in design plans, because as you go through the permitting, there may be changes. You go do your 401 water quality cert, and possibly there's some changes made before the NOI submittals, and going to the web page would be the best place to see the latest and greatest.
So when we file the FEIR, that will have a comprehensive overview of changes from the DEIR, which you will see. Right now, they're advancing the design for access from 75% to 100%. And that's draft because as we progress, through permitting, we know, additional tweaks may be conducted here and there, but that's what you will find in that filing. The way the 401 plans are going to go, the reason why when we file the 401, we're going to also start filing the NOIs, and that's so by the time we get through that process, DEP will have a final comprehensive plan set that captures any changes that occur through our filing process with the Conservation Commission. So there's a strategy there to make sure that things are aligned. When we file with the Conservation Commissions, though, that's where you're going to see more details on the detailed plan for sediment and erosion controls on the plan sets itself. Which had not been incorporated in the plans that you have seen thus far. So your plans will probably be more comprehensive than certainly than what's been submitted through the MIPA process so far.
Oh, okay. All right. That all sounds great. Thanks for coming. Thanks for answering our questions.
Thank you.
And we'll keep on top of it as we wait for our NOI.
Great. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Good luck.
Good night.
All right. Next on the agenda is unanticipated business. I don't have any unanticipated business. Anybody? No. All right. Then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
Second.
All right, Douglas,
Aye.
Con,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
and Wilson. Aye. All right, everybody, have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.